All right, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, wait, no. Okay. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dalton Perry, and I'd like to thank you for joining me in my studio, if you could call it that. And what I'm going to be trying to do today is something that I have never seen done by a dark ambient producer. And of course, that doesn't mean it's never happened before. That just means that I haven't seen it. And I'm pretty active in the dark ambient community just online. And if I've never seen it, that means it probably hasn't happened very much. So I'd like to change that because I think that for dark ambient consumers, not necessarily producers, this could be very interesting. So what I've done here, actually, first I'd like to apologize for probably what's a lower quality voice track. Normally I'd use Audacity and just be able to kind of edit out all of the background noise, but in order to save some CPU, I'm just recording with OBS alongside the screen itself and the audio from the piece of software that I'm using. So hopefully it doesn't sound too bad. It really shouldn't. But if it seems a little bit fuzzy, that's the reason why. So what I've done with this is I'm currently using Traction 6, which to me, myself, not being the person who can afford to just go and drop a whole bunch of money on any DAW that I want to, and on a really good computer to run it with, Traction 6 is probably the best free software out there. As a matter of fact, Traction 6 is one of those things that I'm just kind of amazed that is free, kind of alongside HitFilms Express, but that doesn't really matter right now. So I'm using Traction 6, and what I'm going to record is me, to an extent, working on this new album, which I have. I've already completed the intro track, which is very short because it was meant to be just simply as an intro. So I'm going to let you guys listen to that a little bit. Hopefully, maybe it can serve something of a preview. Hopefully running OBS doesn't mess up this too badly. Let me see if it records properly, the audio that is. Well, it's not playing properly. That can be adjusted here in the settings pretty easily, I think. That's interesting. This does happen sometimes. Traction is not a perfect software, but it does seem. Why isn't that playing so well? Let's make it the primary sound driver and see if that does the trick. That works. There we are. Okay. Sometimes I have to switch it from the primary sound driver and Audacity, and Yeti microphone. Well, they both work equally the same. So I do still have all of the tips on because I haven't been using Traction for this long, but I gotta tell you, Traction is a massive upgrade from Audacity and Paul Stretch. I don't know how well you can hear the track. Traction also does seem to have this issue where if I leave a track, any particular samples that don't have, or particular samples that have some plugins thrown onto them, kind of just, it's the file's missing. Okay, well that used to be a rustling noise. I must have put it somewhere. That's a pretty easy fix, but so let's just not mess around with that too much. All right, so we're going to go ahead, and since that intro track, which is about 2 minutes long, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new track. And I haven't sat down to produce dark ambient for a minute. I've been focusing on a couple of other creative things, also a couple of real-life human things, such as finding a new job. And I don't really remember where I was going with this album. I have it written down somewhere. I have a general idea. Let's see here. I actually have the notebook. Give me just 1 second. So, this video is not going to have any editing in it because I want this to be a sort of, I don't know if raw is the best word, but I want it to be the sort of thing where if you were watching this video, I want you to kind of be as best as you can in the room with me. And of course, real life doesn't have any editing in it. So just for the sake of being as honest as possible. Let's see here. Who are you? Okay. Well, maybe it might be edited a little bit if my my baby wakes up, but she's been asleep for a minute. So maybe she'll stay asleep for another hour or two. So obviously, with any creative thing, anything you do has to go through many different phases, from the title to just about everything. So this is the album that I released a few weeks or even a couple months ago, right there, stored away. So I have, where did I put it? Who Are You? Okay. So this new album is going to be The Observer, and I don't want to tell too much about the story because, of course, I believe that dark ambient is meant to be kind of experienced. The story is meant to be told, obviously, through what you hear and the emotions that it evokes. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you about it. I hope that me talking won't throw any wrenches into the production right now. So I keep on putting the notebook down. The notebook has what I was conceiving of these tracks to be. So it's written down. I wrote these notes a while ago. It says, confronting protagonist, two voices, two languages, one entity, twisted, warbled, demented, alongside descending strings. But ladies and gentlemen, do you know what that means? That means I'm going to have to open up Audacity to record. You can record with Traction, but I don't really... Audacity is used so much because it's a simple thing, obviously. It's a very simple piece of software. That's part of the reason that it was... it's so popular. So hopefully recording in both Audacity and OBS won't make my computer shit itself, but I guess we're about to see. So I have two voices, two languages, both to represent one entity, to sort of create kind of that, maybe to an extent, a cliche sort of warbled demonic voice. But let's see here. What I've been doing is I have, a couple years ago, or maybe just a year ago, I was working really heavily on a conlang, or a constructed language, that was originally meant to be for a novel that I wanted to write. But that novel, I've come to realize that the story that I want to tell, that, you know, the universe that language is in, just isn't really what's the word I'm looking for? It wouldn't do well as a novel. It can't be told as well as I want for it to be in as a novel. So it would have to be a movie, but I don't expect ever to make a movie. So I'm going to go ahead and take a listen to what's happening here. So all the software that's open is going to make my computer run a little bit slow. I might edit a little bit of this out, just, you know, for the sake of you not having to sit here and experience how slow my computer is, which I think can be done without sacrificing any of that honesty. But let's see, where's that playlist? I made a playlist of it. Gary's Mod. I used to want to be a Let's Player, so I had a bunch of playlists set up for that, but that didn't work. Where did I put it? I'm going to have to start focusing on what I'm seeing instead of what I'm saying. Honestly, I could probably just search it. Levitican, or Levi is the name of the tongue. Here we go. Yeah, it's all this stuff. I released all of these about a year ago. One of these videos is one of my most watched videos on this channel, that is. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give a listen to this video, or to this language, and then I'm going to probably just repeat it. Or maybe even, hell, I might even download this video itself, and it might be easier just to repeat it in my recording. Okay, I didn't turn Audacity on. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this a listen and copy it. Something like that. I didn't really write this language down. I just kind of played with the noises I could make with my mouth until I thought they sounded kind of cool. This isn't really a real language, or like, it's not a really full-fledged language. It was meant to kind of sound cool, and that's really it. I didn't really put that much work into the language itself. It does sound like German because I used Old English kind of as a base for that. But let's see here.
Sag Dactylo.
Sag Dactylo.
Erfugnerich Fenna.
Sag Dactylo. Sternbad Stargaren. Wait, hold on. What did I say?
Sturm van Staldekriden.
Sturm van Staldekriden. Okay. Sag Dactylo. Sturm van Staldekriden. It doesn't have to sound super great because I'm going to distort the hell out of it here in just a second, which is a pretty big part of what a dark ambient is supposed to be. Oh, do I have to worry so much about noise removal? Probably not. Let's see this. So to make a demonic or scary kind of voice in Audacity is usually a pretty simple affair.
Sag Dactylo. Sturm van Staldekriden. Sag Dactylo. Sturm van Staldekriden.
So you want it, of course, to sound a little bit like two voices, which is why it's kind of bumped up. But it's not quite done yet. What we're doing is trying to make the voice of an immensely infinite and scary creature. Okay, so we're going to alter the pitch for both of these, but a little bit differently on each one. I'm going to see how that... And then we're probably going to end up reverberating it, because reverbs are a big part of dark ambient production as well, I've found out. Well, if it's a creature living in infinity, I would imagine that its reverb would be pretty big. So let's make this. Let's just make that reverb as big as we can possibly make it. Still is recording, so that's good. I don't know if you can hear this. I sure hope you can. Can you hear that? Hold on, let me... Yes, you can. That sounds pretty cool, but also kind of loud. You know, this is supposed to be kind of like an ethereal voice. So what we're going to do is normalize it a little bit. Well, negative 10 decibels is probably about... Well, that didn't help very much. So let's make it negative 20 decibels. So that sounds kind of interesting. See, even though I'm supposed to be using traction, I am much more used to Audacity, so oftentimes, if I want to do little things, I will fall back to Audacity, which of course there's nothing really wrong with, but... So we're gonna see if we can... And it's supposed to be kind of a long... Well, not an immensely... We're not going to Paul stretch it into oblivion, just a little bit to make it sound like... As long... The less it sounds like a voice while still being recognizable as a voice, the better. I think that sounds pretty good. But it's also not really long enough. Well, maybe it is, because the entity is asking the protagonist what he's doing in the void, because he's only a lowly mortal human. He's not supposed to be in the void because, you know, he should have been driven insane or killed. That sounds kind of cool. So we're gonna run with that, see how it happens. But the entity is supposed to be asking a question. It's supposed to be asking what's the word I'm looking for? The protagonist, what is a lowly mortal human doing in the void? Because he shouldn't be here. He shouldn't even know that the void exists, and yet he does. So let's see here. Two voices. Well, I said two voices, two languages, but I'm not sure why. So I might be able to twist and warble that a little bit more. But question MP3. But here's what something that I've found is that for me, dark ambient is to an extent pretty easy to make, and I'm not saying it's like super easy to make and that just anyone can do it. It does take a certain kind of insane person, but if you have just one sample like this, the idea of dark ambient is twisting, warbling, distorting audio so much that with a sample like this, just distorting it differently, applying different VST effects to it, altering the pitch and the tone and the different degrees of reverbs. You have so much that you can do with just one sample that if you weave it all together, you can actually get a good chunk of what you want your track to be just off of one sample like this. But we'll see how far this one sample will get me. See, it's a little bit laggy just because let's close Audacity now, actually. That'll help some CPU, I think. No, I don't want to save that. Yeah, it's a little bit laggy, mostly because I've downloaded just about every free VST I possibly could. Matter of fact, I should probably delete some here in a minute because some of the ones that I don't use. But so we have that. We have the bass. So, the bass, I don't mean like low tone. I mean bass, like B-A-S-E. So how can I proceed with this? Well, I'm actually going to once again pull open a different piece of software, if you don't mind. This is Paulstretch, which is an amazing tool for people who want to make creepy sounds, or if you want to make ambient, even if it's not dark. Paulstretch is very useful because the entire piece of software, even though it's designed a little bit stupidly, exists solely for the purpose of distorting and stretching audio, which of course, like I was just talking about, is very helpful if you will want to be a dark ambient producer. So we're going to actually lower the stretch a little bit, and just stretched, what does it sound like? So we don't want this to sound too much like a voice anymore. So what I'm going to do is to open up the stretch multiplier, attach a cosine, I don't know how you pronounce that, a cosine stretch multiplier, which that's exactly what it sounds like. I have to keep checking if it's still recording, and it is. Hopefully the file doesn't end up being absolutely huge, but I actually kind of feel like it will. So that's cooler, but that's not all that Paulstretch can do. Paulstretch also has this really cool binaural beats, which sounds kind of like this, if you're unsure about it. I'm going to go ahead and I've got the stretch multiplier. I've got the stretch multiplied here and here, so I'm going to add these beats kind of in the center, but also kind of interloping with the other two hills, I guess. If you hear that, it's very subtle, but it's kind of there in the back, and that's very helpful. That's very useful. So I can also mess with the tonal and the noise. Paulstretch does have quite a lot to mess around with, so a lot of it is just experimenting. I don't typically use this page very much, if I'm to be honest. So yeah, I think it sounds great as it is, so we're going to go ahead and render and save that into the Prophet of Rot file. Where is the album? Through Dust, the Window, the Abyss. Fuck it, let's just put it here. Question edited. So yeah, and then now I have a different manifestation, if you will, of that. I could have just saved it to my desktop, but whatever. I have a different manifestation of that, so that is just another example, hopefully, of just with the free software you can get is pretty useful. And if you teach yourself how to use it, you can make dark ambient. So let's see, I don't want to copy that. So now we have that same. Turn it up a bit for me. Okay, so that's very cool. So what I'm going to do now is import it again. Don't copy. And then to this track, I'm going to apply some fun things like a reverb. So we'll see how that sounds. Pretty cool. And then we're going to add a pitch shifter because pitch is interesting. I'm also going to have that fade in a little bit. So now let's go ahead and mess with the pitch and see what that does. that sounds pretty fucking cool if I do say so myself. So now, let's double down on that. Well, let's actually put the non-edited clip or sample down here. Well, actually, if I'm going to do that, I have an idea. So let's have this clip pan to the left, and this clip pan to the right. So it creates a sort of more complete atmospheric feel. That sounds sweet as hell, but we're going to have the fade be a little bit more subtle for both of these tracks. And obviously I'm also going to move the second sample. Let's have that second sample fade in after the first one is finished. I didn't mean to leave that sample there, but it sounds pretty cool. But I want this one to last a little bit longer, so I'm just going to go ahead and loop it. Looping doesn't always work super great. You do oftentimes have to edit it a little bit, so I'm going to make sure that the transition between these two samples, which I'm probably going to loop quite a bit, just as the base of the song, don't, what's the word I'm looking for, sound too choppy as they transition into one another. Do that one too. Actually, we're going to put that one there, and then with this one, we're going to pan that one further right. So for some reason, this one isn't playing, which does happen on occasion. Like I say, let's mess with that's actually just leave that be. Sometimes the addition of multiple plugins will just kind of completely mess with the sample and it won't play. But that's not, that's just traction sometimes, and also to an extent my low quality computer. So that definitely sounds pretty fucking cool. So I'm actually going to go ahead and reverb this one further. It's a bit much. Just a titch. Actually, I did download a VST recently, which is its own reverb tool. I don't remember which one it is. That was a piano, that one's Squiers, that was also Squiers. I don't need that one. Yeah, it's ambience, whatever you want to say. That one is the VST, I believe. This VST is basically a giant reverb tool that has a lot of very useful presets. So we're going to do the Vic Concert Hall Dark. See what that sounds like. That does sound pretty cool, I think. So we're going to go ahead and I'm actually going to loop this track again. I'm going to loop it. You're going to hear a lot of thinking working sounds, I guess. Oh. I'm going to see how that sounds. So now I'm going to go ahead and import that questions clip again, but then mess with it yet again. So, yeah, Dark Ambient production has much to do with question. warping similar tracks. So let's see, we have that there. Now the question is, of course, how can we warp it? Most of these are VST instruments, not VST effects. So let's, well, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and reverb it again, but with a different preset. Let's actually see what the default preset sounds like. Now how it sounds together with the other one. What if I line them up exactly? I think that sounds interesting. Hopefully it does well with the, hopefully it does pretty well with the, shit. Hopefully, I can't speak English today, because I'm trying to talk but also focus on what I'm doing here. Hopefully that does kind of help lend to the atmosphere of someone you probably don't want to be talking to you. Okay, I think that sounds pretty neat. Pretty neato. So we're going to do the same thing again, only this time we're going to pitch it to be much higher. Well, I lost my pitch shifter. Okay, so I'm going to turn it up a little bit, see what that sounds like. We're going to double down on it. Maybe do the same trick that we did with Audacity, in that we're going to offset it just a titch there. We're going to pitch shift that one too, but to less of an extent. Hopefully I can also demonstrate here how useful Traction 6 is. This is all free, 100% free. There's no copyright. There's no copyright or commercial license for this. You can sell this music using their software without even mentioning a word about whom the software you used. There's no limits on the tracks you can have here. No limits on how many VSTs you have. All of this is absolutely 100% free because they want to entice you into getting the next Traction. So they released the Traction 7, and every time they release a new one, the previous version is made free. And it worked. I definitely do want to buy Traction 7, but we'll have to see if my Dark Ambient can sell before I do that. That honestly sounds a little bit too German. Like, that's funny. Let's actually try that and see what that does. And let's actually get them a little bit closer to one another, but still offset. That sounds pretty cool. Oh, shit. Let's reverb this one. A lot of reverbs. And I'm not saying that obviously the way that I'm making this is not the way that every Dark Ambient producer does their shit. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but it's still worth pointing out because, a lot of Dark Ambient producers do warp samples very heavily, but of course they will also, a lot of the things that I do are similar because we're making the same kind of genre, but everyone else who's a Dark Ambient producer is almost definitely a better Dark Ambient producer. Which of these? I might be a little bit of a noob for using presets, but you know what, fuck you. Frozen Room, that sounds kind of interesting. I do like the way that sounds. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add another track. Don't know why import has much to do with tracks. It doesn't. So we're going to add another track, and now that we've got kind of the intro here, actually I'm going to listen to it from the beginning. I like the way that's turning out to be, so let me just kind of, to ensure that I have this bass continuing, just to make sure that, you know, I'm not having too much fun and then all of a sudden when one sample finishes, it goes quiet because my bass is gone. We're gonna go ahead, and this is a tactic I use with just about every single one of my tracks. Hopefully it's not very detrimental. It seems to work pretty damn well for me. So yeah, we're gonna do that. Of course, also it does kind of help just to layer up the noises to kind of, rather than have these tracks supposed to be transition into one another smoothly, just kind of how they're layered on top of one another and how one's fading out and the other one's fading in, to layer them a little bit more like that. But that's not something I don't think I'm gonna be doing with this track. So let's see here. All right, we're gonna, hopefully that's gonna last a little bit, and now we're gonna use the amazing VST instruments. I actually don't know why I created a new track, but I have a lot of VST instruments that are extremely useful. So let's think about this. That's a VST effect. What we're looking for is to kind of evoke a sense of foreboding, because this entity is very scary. DSK Darkness Theory is very useful, but it's also very limited. It's a pretty small piece. The one that I keep returning to is Chimera, MacGen's Chimera. I'm not sure if that's how really you're supposed to pronounce that. Am I still recording? Yes, I am. Good. How long have I been recording? It doesn't say. Oh, a half an hour. Okay. I might actually wrap this up here in just a minute once I get this done. But maybe not also, honestly. I don't have anything to do until about 4, so I might just keep going. But I also want to keep these in kind of somewhat consumable bites. I don't want to sit here and yammer on forever and ever. So maybe around the 45-minute mark, I'll shut it off, but we'll see. Just kind of if I'm in the zone. Okay, so we have Chimera activated, which is of course a free VST. Everything here is absolutely free. Thank heavens. So I've been using Chimera to the point at which I'm comfortable not just using presets for the most part. So let's steal 58. Don't know why I chose that one in particular. And let's just randomly fuck around with all these switches, because this VST is interesting in that I'm still learning a little bit what all of these technical music or production terms mean. I'm not sure what modulation is, but of course all of this is one great big learning experience, and hopefully I can get, I understand it to an extent, like, because I've been learning, but hopefully I can help you guys learn a little bit as well. If you're interested in dark ambient production, or just a little bit about how dark ambient is made, or really just electronic music in general, I hope that I can help with you guys to understand that. Not sure how to turn these elements on. So let's see what that sounds like. Just randomly click a bunch of shit. I also have to make this a default MIDI. So this here is what we're gonna have to go to percussion number. See, I have all this for, because a lot of these VSTs don't actually have extra banks or slots for your custom things. So a lot of them, when I want to do something a little bit custom, I have to destroy. Well, there's actually probably a way to add your own slot, but I don't know what it is yet. So let's see what I just made and what it sounds like. Let's use. So it might not sound like anything, but I also might not have my that set up properly. I do have that set up properly. That doesn't sound like shit. So let's make sure that everything is working properly and just choose a random preset. So that one's playing just fine. So I'm actually going to go ahead and return to 58. I'm not sure how, is that how you turn it on? I'm going to be sure to turn these things on, hopefully, maybe. So that is working. It's not that I have my audio set up incorrectly. I'm just not sure how to use Chimera 100% yet. So let's take a closer look at these elements. This in and of itself, should be making some sound, I guess. Can I not turn these elements on? There's a lot of stuff that's off, and I'm not 100% sure how I'm supposed to be turning them on. Well, that's not doing anything, so I'm going to actually just go right back into the presets. I'm actually going to use Eon, which is one of my favorite presets for this, but of course you can't overuse presets. And I'll go over this way, and right around here I'll start recording. I can use my keyboard. Okay, so I just hit a bunch of random things that I kind of let my fingers and my ears work together and play something that kind of matched well with this, at least to my mind. But we're not done with that quite yet. So we're going to render that clip here. That's all decent quality. We're going to pull that render track down here. That's why I created another track. And then we're just going to delete that. And then we're going to have some fun with distorting this. Because like I say, you can't just continuously reuse the same preset, because then it all starts to sound the same. Oh, see, that's something that's pretty interesting. I just made a mistake. So just because this is something that I've had to learn about Chimera, is that, or not Chimera, Traction, is that selecting the preset or the custom slot that you want to use doesn't actually make it play it properly. You have to also go to here and then choose that. So what we're listening to is actually the preset that I did make. Well, hold on, it's soundless, isn't it? Let's actually mute that. Okay, so yeah, that's just a mistake that I make quite a bit. Oh, actually, let's just go ahead and how far? That's as far back as I can undo. So we're going to do that again, but this time we're going to yes, delete the fucking clip. This time we're going to make sure that it's set the way I want for it to be. That is, we're going to set it to Eon, both there and here. I'm going to try that again. So there we have that. That was set properly, I do hope. I'm going to render that clip. And then we're going to pitch shift it. And then we're gonna pitch shift it and make sure everything sounds not the same to some of the tracks I've done before. So just a titch. We'll lower the pitch just a minute, just a bit. So that sounds interesting, but let's reverb it, because you never have too big reverbs in dark ambient. Ooh. Let's use the ambience. So which one of these? My baby's waking up. So actually, after I attach this reverb and see how it sounds, I might cut it off from there. Fast guitar, Amoeba, Muddy Factory. Let's see what that sounds like. Meh. Amoeba Echo. I'm not too hot on that one either. Patty Peep and Snare. Let's try Vic Cathedral. Well, now that is interesting. Let's lower that pitch a little bit more. And there we have it. I think that sounds great. Still sounds a bit too high pitched for what's happening here, or a bit too light. But like I said, my baby's waking up, so I'm gonna have to go take care of her. And I've been recording for 40 minutes, so I think that'll do. I'd like to thank anyone who tuned in